Anakin understood everything. He feels like a god. Nay, he is a god, the true ruler of the galaxy. After Anakin closes his eyes and bathes in the pool of knowledge, the feeling of infinite power of the light side courses through his veins. How did this come to be? How does Anakin fulfill his destiny and reach his full potential? That's what we'll be exploring today. This is What If Anakin Reached His Full Potential. When Anakin sees how the Order had treated his Padawan, Ahsoka, and how they hadn't stood up for their own member in the face of political pressure, Anakin feels disenfranchised with them, even more so than before. He feels anger beginning to bubble up inside him at the prospect of remaining with an Order that he's starting to feel cynical towards. Anakin realizes that if he stays in the Order, he's not going to ever reach his full potential. He can also sense himself sliding deeper into his darker emotions, and he knows that if he continues to remain a Jedi, he's going to fall into the dark side. Anakin announces to the Council that he will be following in the steps of his Padawan, feeling that he's not a good fit for the Jedi anymore. Obi-Wan tries to convince Anakin to stay, reminding him of his commitment to the Jedi that he had made as a child. Anakin scoffs, saying that he had been far too young to understand the ramifications of his decision at that time. Anakin tells the Order that this war has made him cynical, losing his grounding in the Force. He must go on a quest to rediscover who he is, separate from the Republic and from the Jedi. As Anakin is leaving, he goes to visit Padme, who's speaking with Rex at the Senate chambers. He tells both of them that he's leaving the Order, and he also says that he has to go on a quest of self-discovery to see who he is beyond the Jedi and the war. He tells Rex to take care of Padme, and he also says that he'll be home soon enough. Anakin takes R2 and uses his trusty yellow Jedi interceptor with its hyperspace ring to begin his journey. The first planet that Anakin visits is the world of Ahch-To. He had read about this world during his studies at the temple, and he believes that getting back to the original roots of the Jedi Order would help him find the balance that he sought, really helping him discover how to be the prophesied chosen one. While its location is surrounded in mystery, Anakin dives deep into meditation in his starship as he flies through space. He hears the voices of the wills in his mind, and he follows where they guide him, not entirely sure what they are, but knowing that they are powerful. When Anakin emerges from his deep meditation, it seems like no time has passed at all. However, before him is an ancient planet. Anakin guides his ship to the surface, knowing that this is Ahch-To, and knowing that the island below him was one of the possible birthplaces of the Jedi Order. On Ahch-To, Anakin doesn't find what he's looking for. However, he does find new insights in the ancient texts that are seen in The Last Jedi. He learns just how far the Jedi had drifted from their original teachings. Anakin agrees with much of what is written about the Prime Jedi and his followers, and he takes some of these books with him that he finds in the tree. True balance was what they had found, and Anakin wanted to follow in their footsteps, rather than being subjected to the dogmatic pressures of the current order. Just as Anakin's about to leave, he receives a vision, much like Rey did during The Last Jedi. Anakin sees many planets, including Tython and Korriban, two ancient worlds of the Jedi and the Sith. Anakin knows that in order to find his true potential, he must explore both sides of the Force. He decides to go to Korriban to balance his experience. Anakin goes to Korriban in much the same way as he did for Ahch-To. He hears the voices of the wills in his mind, guiding him, telling him where the starship should go through space. Anakin also enters that deep meditative trance, only listening to what the Force is telling him. Then he appears above the desolate world and opens his eyes, knowing that this was the birthplace of the Sith. Anakin guides his ship down to the surface, sensing many dark presences and hearing the whispers of ancient Sith in his ears. R2 chimes in, saying that he has a bad feeling about this, and Anakin can't help but nod his head, agreeing with the droid's wisdom. But he knows that he must continue down this path in order to reach his full potential. When Anakin disembarks from his ship, he can hear the voices of the ancient Sith locked in their tombs, and the cries of old warriors training in his ears, Sith that were being pierced by painful weapons. And the seeming omnipresence of the dark side causes Anakin to stumble. However, eventually he becomes accustomed to it, being able to tune out the voices and truly lean in to the dark side, feeling it flow through him. On Korriban, Anakin discovers the ancient holocron of Skir Khan, who was the founder of the Brotherhood of Darkness before Bane went and destroyed it all, revitalizing the Sith with the rule of 2. He must use the dark side of the Force to unlock this ancient fount of knowledge. Anakin finds the dark power of the world intoxicating, and he opens the holocron, interested to hear what this old Sith had to say about the Force. He listens earnestly to the Jedi turned Dark Lord, as he spills his secrets for days on end. Once Anakin is finished with Khan's hologram, and he finishes training in the secrets that Khan had told him, he reads some more of the ancient Sith literature that is scattered around the temples of this world. He stumbles on ancient records of a planet called Mortis, which Anakin actually remembers visiting from when he had gone with Obi-Wan and Ahsoka. Anakin knows after reading this ancient literature that the key to his journey was on Mortis. Anakin decides that once again, with the guidance of the Force, travels into wild space. He doesn't know what he'll find, and he doesn't know where he'll end up, but he knows that he will get somewhere, and with the Force's guidance that he'll end up in the right spot. Anakin is actually shocked when Mortis appears in front of him again when he reaches the coordinates. It must have been the will of the Force for Anakin to return to that world. Anakin lands his starfighter on Mortis. It's empty without the presence of the father, the son, and the daughter. However, Anakin does see a small, seemingly luminescent bird that appears to be an owl, greeting him when he lands. Anakin, feeling attracted to the energy of the bird, follows it. There's something oddly familiar about it. Anakin journeys towards the old caves in which Obi-Wan had found the dagger that had been used to kill the father and the daughter in the Clone Wars. There, Anakin sees the waters surrounding it, characterized by a strange green light. Anakin hears a powerful voice in his head, and he recognizes it. Stunned, Anakin thought that this voice was dead. But no, apparently his presence was still alive in the Force. It's the father. "Bathe in these waters, Skywalker," it commands, "and you shall reach your full potential." Anakin, feeling absolutely compelled to do so after the father had gotten into his head, reaches his hands towards the pond. He then begins to step in gently, and he senses the light side energy teeming in the waters as he touches it with his hands, and when he bathes in the water, he feels a pure burst of force rush through his veins. Anakin rises, his eyes pouring with light from them. The voice of the father congratulates him in his mind, but he also says that Anakin's journey is not over yet. Anakin soars through the air with his newfound power of flight to the Palace of the Sun from the Clone Wars. There, he also drinks from the font of power under the command of the father, and balance inside of him is truly achieved. Because Anakin is born of the Force, unlike Abeloth, he does not go insane like she did. Instead, he feels oddly whole, complete. He is his true self. Finally, Anakin understands the secrets of the Force that he'd been yearning for. He sees the entire galaxy, and he sees that in his absence, Palpatine had managed to seize control without him being present. Anakin, who disagreed with the ways of the Jedi Order, had never actually wanted to see them all massacred, which had happened with Order 66, even without Anakin to lead the assault on the temple. With his new Force abilities, Anakin can see everything. The screams of the younglings at the temple infuriate Anakin, and fire explodes from his fingertips. Palpatine needed to be stopped, and balance needed to be restored. In that moment, the Wills, who had been watchers for many years, reveal themselves to Anakin, warning him that no mortal had ever wielded such power before in history, but that they had guided him here for this very moment so that he could be the one to truly balance the Force. Not even the most legendary Force users could comprehend what Anakin now saw before him. Anakin laughs heartily, and when he does, one of the mountains on Mortis cracks. Anakin says that he is no longer immortal, and he dismisses the concerns of the Wills, pleased that he had found what he was looking for. Anakin knows that he will not fall into darkness. No, he will be the beacon of balance that the Force had been needing. The Wills sense this inside of Anakin, and they are satisfied, returning to their strange world in the Wellspring of Life. Anakin, not forgetting about R2, soars away from Mortis, carrying his starfighter in tow. He flies through space, not impacted by the void whatsoever. With his new powers, Anakin can do anything. He soars to the stars at speeds untold of, that not even the most adept pod racers could fathom. Anakin held the keys to space and time in his hands. It would bend to his will. Soon, Anakin would balance the Force and extract justice on Darth Sidious. Eventually, after flying through space, when Anakin arrives at the city-planet Metropolis, capital of the galaxy, Coruscant, he's met by a small fleet of Star Destroyers that are blockading the world. Anakin can hear their calls to identify himself, sensing each individual being aboard the ship, seeing their faces, and hearing their cries. He senses every individual struggle that they're having, and he sees what's going on inside their little Imperial heads. Instead of actually heeding to their demands, Anakin simply flicks his finger, causing the ships to part for him. Just like Moses parted the Red Sea, Anakin parts the sea of Star Destroyers. He races towards the surface after having made multiple Star Destroyers move with the Force look like nothing. This puts Starkiller's feat of pulling down the Star Destroyer with the Force to shame. Anakin lands on the surface of the planet lightly, gliding his feet towards the Imperial Palace. He flicks the TK troopers and clones who try to neutralize him away with barely even a thought. His vision focused on finding and destroying Palpatine. He can see him in his mind's eye, cackling in his Imperial Palace. He could sense the Dark Master inside of that palace, and he was determined to find him and kill him to bring balance to the Force. Anakin flies upwards to the highest point of the palace and sees his old mentor in his quarters. Anakin smashes the window with the Force, not even raising a finger, simply using his mind to. And he sees Sidious in the corner of the room, cowering at Anakin's seemingly infinite power. Anakin confronts him, asking why he had betrayed him and why he had slaughtered all of those Jedi. Anakin says that he had done the opposite of bringing balance to the Force. Instead, Sidious had plunged the galaxy into darkness. No, Anakin, please. You know me. You know that I am only looking for the best for the galaxy. The Jedi, they tried to betray me. Mace Windu, he almost killed me in my office. Anakin, no. I know that you want to join me. I know that you want to make this empire great. I know that you want to build a better galaxy, and together we can rule it, and that we can make things the way that we want them to be. Remember, Anakin, I have the power to save your wife. I know the secrets of the Force. At this, Anakin cackles, saying that he didn't have eyes for galactic domination, and that now he could see all of the secrets of the Force himself. He knows how to save Padme if he really wanted to. He had spoken with the Wills, something that Sidious couldn't even fathom. Anakin was now a deity at the level that Sidious couldn't begin to comprehend, even in his seemingly infinite dark side power. Sidious tries to fire Force lightning at Anakin's direction, but the being that now is Anakin Skywalker merely laughs. He soaks up the lightning, drinking it in with an odd sense of pleasure. It has no effect on him. Sidious is shocked. His mouth drops to the ground. His signature power had done nothing against his otherworldly foe. Anakin decides that death would be far too kind of a fate for this cruel galactic master. Instead, he reaches into Sidious's mind with the Force, probing it and seeing no hint of goodness left in the Sith Lord. If there had been, perhaps Anakin would have spared him. So, Anakin decides to snap his mind. He crushes it with the Force. Sidious lets out a frightening cry of pain before crumbling to the floor. Anakin shakes his head in disappointment and floats back to the window, not looking back, and soars towards Padme's apartment. When the clones find Sidious in his office, he's babbling and an incoherent mess. The shrewd politician, who had taken over the galaxy and had mastered the ways of the Sith Order, was now replaced by an ancient shell of the man that he once was. Anakin returns to Padme, and he can immediately sense a difference in her with regards to him. She looks upon him frightened at his new appearance and at his seemingly infinite glow. Anakin lets her know that he'd succeeded in his pilgrimage, evidently, and that he had now truly brought balance to the Force. He had the power of the Son, the Daughter, and the Father in the palm of his hand, and he had just defeated Sidious like he was nothing. He had given him a deserving fate. When Padme asks if Anakin had killed him, Anakin smiles and shakes his head, saying that instead he had snapped his mind, alleviating the galaxy of such a disastrous leader. The pair embrace, especially since Padme sees that Anakin had sort of showed mercy to Sidious in an odd way, and Padme shows him their children, who he loves immediately. They're sitting in their cribs, fast asleep, but Anakin can sense that they would grow up to be powerful Force users one day. Anakin says that he will train them in the ways of the Force, and he will devote his entire life for the next few years to their upbringing. Padme agrees, and once again, they embrace lovingly. The next day, the Senate calls a special session to find out what to do with the incapacitation of their Imperial leader. Maestria gives a brief to the Senate, and he calls a special election. Republican forces in the Senate end up prevailing. Padme, who is still extremely popular despite many Imperial sentiments growing throughout the galaxy, is elected to be the Chancellor, and she's dedicated to reversing the damage that Sidious had done to their democracy in his short few months as the Emperor. She reinstates term limits for leaders, and she also has a commitment to returning to the pre-separatist era policies that would foster unity without the utilization of force. Padme truly goes back to her commitment to diplomacy, and she shows it with her policies. Anakin, while Padme is off being the Chancellor, settles down with his children on Naboo, and he had now completed his journey as a Force user. He sees everything. Sometimes he appears in public with his wife, but many people are questioning of him. He gives off an odd aura. People know, even if they don't understand what he is, that he has become something otherworldly. Anakin doesn't talk about this with most of the galaxy. He simply remains his Jedi self, talking about his war experience and providing support to his wife. Still, however, there are some times when people ask, and Anakin has to be a little bit coy because he knows that most people in the galaxy won't understand his insane journey to where he is now. Anakin decides to manipulate his form to age with his wife. He's immortal now, but he knows that if he were to grant Padme immortality, it wouldn't work for her. If she were to drink from the font of power or bathe in the Wellspring of Life, she would have the same fate as the poor Abeloth many years ago. While he knows that he is immortal, he finds comfort in the fact that they can do something together. He no longer fears death for Padme, as he can see everything and knows that she is having an incredible impact on the galaxy just as she is. He knows that she would suffer a gruesome fate if he tried to screw around with the natural way of life, and Anakin doesn't want that for his wife. Padme is a very successful Chancellor, and she initiates many reforms that lead to more galactic unity. She officially apologizes to the Jedi, and she pardons all who remain from Order 66. Following this pardon, Anakin is reunited with Obi-Wan, Ahsoka, and Yoda as he journeys across the galaxy to find them and thank them for their influence on his life. He also wants to show them what he had discovered, but he knows that they will not benefit like he does. Luke and Leia end up growing up to be powerful Force users. Anakin devotes all of his time to teaching them the secrets that he can, and they're incredibly quick learners. The galaxy is at peace, and true balance has been brought to the Force. With Anakin, a master of the dark and the light, now able to keep the shifting currents of the Force in check, peace had finally emerged. Hopefully, a dictator like Sidious, who is adept in the dark side, would never have the opportunity to rise from the shadows ever again. Now's the time that we transition into the Ask Me Anything segment from the Discord. Our question today is from Chase, and he's asking me what my favorite What If video is that I've ever watched, if I have one. As a matter of fact, Chase, I do have one. That video has to be what if Anakin or Vader was addicted to Bacta by Star Wars Theory. Honestly, I loved that video and it was just so out of pocket and hilarious. I really loved it. So I personally think that those types of what ifs, the ones that are a little more fun and out there, wild and wacky, are just the ones that hit the hardest for me. And I think that's kind of evidenced by some of the content that we've produced on Bantha Stew. You know, I really enjoyed doing the what if Donald Trump was the Galactic Chancellor, and some of the other more out there ones, the one with Mr. Beast, the one with Barack Obama, those type of ones, they always just feel like so much fun to me, and I absolutely enjoy doing them. I wouldn't mind doing my own spin on what if Obi-Wan was addicted to death sticks in the future as well. What if he had taken them in Attack of the Clones? That's one that's on the docket for possibilities in the future, but I don't know if I'll actually get to that one. So, to answer your question, Chase, what if Vader was addicted to Bacta is my favorite what if video that I've ever watched. It was just so unique and so funny. I really loved it personally. If you guys want to get engaged and you want to ask me questions, I would seriously recommend that you join the Discord. It's a growing community of many like-minded Star Wars fans like yourself who just want to join, discuss life, and discuss all things Star Wars. So please, I would encourage you to click the link in the description and hop into the Discord server. Thank you all for watching today's video. If you enjoyed it, I would highly recommend that you check out this other video that's going to be linked above. I would also recommend that, again, you join the Discord so that we can chat more and that I can interact with you more frequently. I love making this content and I love interacting with Bantha Stew's fans. So, again, thanks for watching today, and I hope that you all have an incredibly Bantha-tacular day. As always, I also hope that you've had your delicious daily dose of Bantha Stew.